Here in 2021, if there is one thing I can say, it's that we're enjoying the true AAA live service experience, living 2020 patch 1.1. See, last year, things took a turn for the worse when the simulation broke and we all spent way too much time online getting fed watching the world burn and having to listen to Hollywood celebrities try and relate to us regular humans as they sob on Twitter in their multi-million-dollar homes and yachts, complaining about not being able to go to their luxury clubs and restaurants while firing their underpaid maids and servants, because it turns out Consuela, you're not actually part of the family and we can't have those working class hands cleaning little Ocean King anymore. Don't worry though, celeb mom will tell her millions of followers about how woke they are while she dumps her millions into the Cayman Islands. So yes, here in early 2021, we're in the fake apology stage of the typical AAA live service dumpster fire. Maybe things will get better, maybe grandma will fall over tomorrow, maybe I'll get off my lazy ass and go to the gym, or maybe I'll just play Hitman 3 or spend more time with very tall vampire lady who's definitely scary and clearly not going to be Rule 34'd. Speaking of old juicy pieces of ancient history, Peter Moore rejoined the video game industry, because why not? If you're confused with who Peter Moore is, well, he's not the serial killer Wikipedia result that you get right under his, although to be fair, Peter Moore certainly did a great job massacring game franchises and studios during his time with EA. Moore recently told GamesIndustry.biz that he believes FIFA Ultimate Team is a long way from gambling. You're always getting something. The concept of surprise and delight versus gambling, on a continuum, they're a long way from each other. Asking one of the chief enablers and architects about his exploitative, manipulative loot box feature and him defending it is like catching little Jimmy stealing a cookie from the cookie jar and confronting him about it. With crumbs falling from his mouth, he's going to deny it, but we both know the truth. Moore also claimed that EA learned their lesson after the Star Wars Battlefront 2 loot box debacle, insinuating that they are good at listening to feedback and are making gamer-first decisions. Peter Moore is as convincing as Kendall Jenner with a Pepsi can, or the comedy skills of Amy Schumer, or sheet pie with a Nerf gun, or better yet, the magical act that Randy Pitchford pulled by leaving a non-password protected USB drive behind at a restaurant full of company secrets and adult content. To be fair though, that's far from the worst stories shared about Randy in recent years, but today we have a lot of gaming news to break down, and you probably should consider subscribing, turning notifications on, liking the video, and leaving a comment below with your thoughts. When Blizzard Entertainment isn't throwing their values out the window to appease Winnie the Pooh and his pot of very, very profitable honey, they're being gutted by Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick, man who is paid way too much and doesn't like the internet photoshopping him into the devil because it ruins his dating life. Maybe Bobby should reflect on why tons of people consider him the devil. Like, I think one good example is whenever this company has a record year, it seems more people are being fired and studios ceasing to exist. Then again, churning out a new $70 Call of Duty and mobile game updates is a whole lot more lucrative than investing in new franchises or ideas. Something that's not an exclusive issue or problem to Activision Blizzard, but that of all the top dogs of this AAA games industry. Well, primarily the third-party publishers. Just the other day it was announced Vicarious Visions, the team that revived the Crash Bandicoot franchise and delivered last year's stellar remaster of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1+2, one of the best skating games in years. Well, Vicarious Visions is now being merged into Blizzard because why not? Sure, the argument some are making is that it's been rumored for some time that they would be working on a Diablo 2 remake, but after that, do they concentrate on another remake, or do they join the fun with assisting development on games like Overwatch 2 and Hearthstone? I think a lot of the skating fans would have loved to see them developing more Tony Hawk games, but now they're dedicated fully to Blizzard. As remarkable as this news already is, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier provided further reporting on what's going on inside of Blizzard right now. Certainly we've known that the soul of this company has been ripped out and stomped on a few times by Devil Horns Man, but it continues to get worse. Schreier notes that Vicarious Visions has in fact been working with Blizzard since last year on the Diablo franchise, including a planned remake of Diablo 2. More interesting, until last year, the Diablo 2 remake was said to be developed by Blizzard's Team 1, part of the company's Irvine, California campus that had become known for reworking classic games. Its most recent release in January 2020 was a remake called Warcraft 3 Reforged. Ouch. The title was poorly received due to glitches and missing features, earning 59 out of 100 on the review aggregator Metacritic, the lowest score a Blizzard game has ever gotten. To say Warcraft 3 Reforged's launch was a disaster would be an understatement. As CCN wrote at the time, the game is ridden with seemingly downgraded graphics, missing assets, shoddy animations, countless bugs, facets of multiplayer not working correctly, recycled cinematics, sketchy performance, and the absence of a UI refresh among other promised features. This is an issue with many of the talented and beloved studios of yesterday. They just aren't the same, shells of themselves, as reliable as those 3 pieces of toilet paper that we both both know is not going to get the job done. The story of Blizzard's downfall is no different than that of BioWare. Founders leave, corporate executives assert dominance, multiple veteran lead devs jump ship, and what's left behind is a team in over their head, working on franchises that fans love, but the people that made those franchises what they are have moved on. Jason Schreier goes on to reveal, with Warcraft 3 Reforged's failure, Team 1, the internal team that was developing it, met and discussed what went wrong, and internal Blizzard documents pinpointed the game's failure on poor planning, miscommunication, and a rushed release due to financial pressure from management, among other factors. What a surprise. There was a time when Blizzard was focused on creativity, not financial ambitions, but that time was under Mike Morhaime. The president in charge now is just a yes man to corporate. But Schreier continues, revealing that Team 1 were trying to learn from their mistakes before work began on the remake of Diablo 2. That would not happen as Blizzard's management pulled the project from them and put the division behind Diablo 4 in charge, along with a group at Vicarious Visions assisting with its development. On October 15, 2020, Blizzard informed members of Team 1 that it was reorganizing the entire division according to people who worked on Warcraft 3 Reforged. In the following weeks, members of the team were given opportunities to interview for jobs elsewhere within Blizzard. Those who did not find positions in the company were gradually cut, aka they were fired. Others left for independent studios recently started by high-profile company veterans such as Frost Giant Inc. and Dreamhaven Inc., started by Blizzard co-founder and former chief executive officer Mike Morhaime, whose departure widely signaled the beginning of Activision's takeover. It's noted that Team 1 was also responsible for games such as Heroes of the Storm, StarCraft Remastered, and StarCraft 2. As I said, throughout 2020, the Blizzard of old they're just gone. Quality is not of the utmost importance anymore. That doesn't mean new Blizzard is doomed, but it does mean having microtransactions shoved into everything they do will become a focus, and it's very likely the Warcraft 3 Reforged disaster story is just the start of potential problems, all thanks to Activision executives taking control. Now, in other news, speaking of smelly infective diseases that have the scent of death all over them, EA faced some rather interesting allegations recently. Apex Legends announced a new character called Fuse coming to the game early next month. One problem though, Fuse shares an awful lot of similarities with another indie game's character, and the developers have accused Electronic Arts of ripping them off, although they have been very polite with pointing out the similarities. Speaking to Nintendo Life, indie studio NOWAA said that it believes the character is a knockoff of Hunter, a one-eyed space bandit who stars in its upcoming hero shooter Bulletville. We are happy that the Apex Legends team liked Hunter's style to the point of wanting to recreate it in Apex Legends. We were even hoping for an eventual crossover. Nonetheless, we are afraid that as a small indie game producer whose games have not been published yet, will be called a ripoff of Apex Legends, which is certainly not true. Where this gets even more interesting is the fact that the indie studio had been in talks with EA's indie-focused label EA Originals about a publishing deal for their game Bulletville. Those talks started in early 2020 and included playtest demos in October and November of 2020. The company's CEO telling PC Gamer, "I don't necessarily think there's a connection between EA Originals and the people at Respawn, but suffice to say that EA is aware of us at the bare minimum." As PC Gamer notes, these characters, they have high-tech eye patches, a flash of gray in their hair, a sweet mustache, a mechanical arm, a necklace, gloves, skull belt, buckles, low-slung holsters, and a penchant for serious firepower. Hunter carries a pistol and a rocket launcher, and Fuse's ultimate is, you guessed it, a rocket launcher. The indie studio has floated the idea of potential legal action such as sending EA a cease and desist letter, but the company's CEO acknowledged the legal route would just be too costly. Either way, the design of these two characters are very similar to say at the very least, but neither are all that unique. There are numerous characters that sport this overall look, but I guess what is striking about this specific situation is just how identical some of the details are. Could it be a coincidence? Sure, but this one is way too close, and thus far Electronic Arts has not at all responded to this accusation. Since we are on the subject of Electronic Arts and some great not so surprising news, more sources have emerged confirming that a new Knights of the Old Republic game is on the way from a studio outside of both Electronic Arts and BioWare. It's unclear what this new KOTOR game will actually be. Some rumors indicated a remake and sequel of sorts, but the real question is who's developing this project, and right now there is no obvious candidate. Nate Nada of Wushu Studios corroborated the claims that a new KOTOR is in development, saying about KOTOR's new developer, "It's not as mysterious as you think, it's just not a household name most people are aware of. Only time will tell what this project ends up being, but this would explain why Lucasfilm a few years ago jumped in and shut shut down the ambitious Unreal Engine 4 fan remake of the original KOTOR. It also is yet another example of Lucasfilm branching out away from Electronic Arts. As we discussed recently, EA's exclusivity deal over Star Wars has come to an end, with it being officially announced that Ubisoft is working on an open-world story-driven Star Wars game. Now, it appears another mysterious, I would assume smaller developer has taken on the task of reviving one of gaming's most beloved franchises. It really is sad that none of this could have happened under EA. They had the resources, they had about 8 years of time, they even had some of the projects in development, but corporate greed gave us Anthem, Mass Effect Andromeda, and Visceral Games being shut down instead. Yippee. Xbox broke news in recent days with, quite frankly, one of the most baffling decisions I've ever seen for a company that has worked extensively to change their reputation from a pretender to a contender in this industry with their pro-consumer approach. They did something that made absolutely no sense. In a statement, the Xbox team explained the work that they've made for the last 18 years with Xbox Live, which led them to assess the value and price of their service, which at this point I think should just cease to exist. But anyway, they tried doubling the price of Xbox Live Gold. And did they feel the wrath of the internet for trying that? Not sure entirely what the thinking was behind the scenes, but likely it was the Xbox team attempting to force players into purchasing the Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription, which for $15 a month you get access to Game Pass, EA Play, and Xbox Live Gold, among other perks. It's a great deal, but forcing that is and was not a good look. This terrible decision actually reminds me of when Xbox boss at the time, Don Matterick, and his smug face tried to force an always online internet requirement for the Xbox One, as well as a pre-owned games policy which restricted use unless you paid a fee. Luckily, at the time, Sony pounced on them, the internet clowned them, and they eventually reversed course, but the damage was already inflicted. Fortunately, with this situation, the difference is that Phil Spencer isn't incompetent, and very quickly the Xbox team reversed course on doubling Xbox Live Gold's cost. In a statement just hours after the original announcement, Xbox abandoned the upcharge and apologized, saying, "We messed up today, and you were right to let us know. Connecting and playing with friends is a vital part of gaming, and we failed to meet the expectations of players who count on it every day." They would further announce another new change, one more pro-consumer, which was making it that you no longer need an Xbox Live Gold membership to play free-to-play games on Xbox. Well, yeah, certainly they made the right decision at the end of the day. My immediate concern is, why out of the blue did they even try this? This actually isn't the worst thing that Microsoft has done in the last week, one of those patents of dead people and stuff. Jesus Christ. Also, as great as it is that free-to-play games are no longer part of Xbox Live Gold, this is something that should have happened a long time ago. One of my longtime fears of Game Pass is that Microsoft will try to pull the Netflix slowly upcharged monetization scheme. With every year or so, the cost goes up $1 or $2, and I feel even more confident that that is the future ahead. Just an all-around dumb way to start off 2021, especially when they are in a dead heat against multiple other platforms such as the PlayStation 5, which in my opinion still has a significant advantage because Sony has proven that they can produce remarkable, innovative Game of the Year contenders on a regular basis, while Microsoft has a promising future ahead for sure, with so much acquired talent, but the last decade has been an absolute mess. They've lacked the quality blockbuster games. That'll very likely change, but we aren't there yet. Right now they are relying on the value associated to their services, and forcing players onto it just pushes them to rivals. But to our final big story of the day, we have Cyberpunk 2077, a game that probably has had a more divisive reaction than that of The Last of Us Part 2, and that's saying a lot. There has just been so much anger and outrage since launch, with CD Projekt Red making a lot of just terrible decisions. Ultimately, though, as was revealed in Jason Schreier's expose on the game's development, it suffered a lot of the same problems that plagued BioWare's Anthem, but one clear difference between the two is the end result. Anthem was, or is, forgettable. I can't remember one character's name from that bore fest. The actual gameplay wasn't all that bad, but it was yet another miss for BioWare. With Cyberpunk 2077, I've said it countless times, there's a lot of elements I really enjoyed, such as story, characters, and music, and the combat. Now, while Anthem was a sales failure, Cyberpunk 2077 has been a massive success. While it did miss estimates made by analysts, it still broke records. Superdata Research recently announced that the game had the biggest digital launch of all time based on digital revenue and digital units sold, selling over 10.2 million digital copies, with PC accounting for around 80% of those sales. So yes, while there has been enormous backlash, with many pointing out broken aspects of the game's design and performance, it has not stop Cyberpunk from roaring to the top, which really shouldn't be too shocking considering the amount of hype that was surrounding this game up until launch day, some of that unfortunately being misleading based on empty promises that were made by CDPR, but obviously those issues were not fully realized until the game's release. Speaking to New Zealand's One News, Valve figurehead Gabe Newell actually gave his thoughts on the Cyberpunk 2077 controversy. This is somewhat interesting coming from a man that usually is tight-lipped and also is in charge of the platform that I would assume the most copies of Cyberpunk 2077 were sold on, Steam. Newell saying, "I have a lot of sympathy with the situation that every game developer finds themselves in. All I know is that there are a lot of very happy gamers in the PC space, which are the ones that are the most visible to us. There are aspects of the game that are just brilliant and it shows a tremendous amount of work. It's unfair to throw stones at any other developer because just getting something as complex and ambitious as that out the door is pretty amazing." Newell furthermore called PlayStation's decision to remove the game from the store as unusual, although I personally don't find it unusual. The issue was always how CDPR went about getting refunds and the lack of communication with Sony before announcing them. Newell did have an optimistic view for the future of Cyberpunk 2077 while also understanding fans' frustration, saying, "People get mad because they care. When people have those kinds of reactions, my first thought is that this is an opportunity for us, and I assume that the Cyberpunk 2077 developers are similarly just using it to crank through and make improvements that are going to be beneficial to their customers. They have a long history of doing a great job of continuing to invest in their products over time, and I suspect that they're going to be very good at making their customers happy over time. Everybody knows that if you're in this business, expectations are high, and if you do it well, people are going to let you know, and if you fail to meet those expectations, they're going to let you know. That's part of why it's a fun industry." One of the aspects of getting part of their reputation back is by fixing the game. We've had hotfixes in December that fix some of the issues, but just so many remain. In their apology to gamers back in December, CD Projekt Red announced that 2 significant patches were going to be coming in January 2021 and February 2021. The first of which came just a few days ago, and again, unfortunately, this is yet another setback. This large patch is no more bigger than that of the recent hotfixes and does not fix or change much. The most noticeable improvement is FPS and crashes. The game still is struggling on base consoles with many scenarios where the FPS drops to around or under 20, but it does seem players are now getting an extra frame or two. It also appears crashes have lessened, but it's still a massive problem, especially on PlayStation, in which players are still reporting crashes almost every hour of playing. On Twitter, CD Projekt Red said that this patch laid the groundwork for upcoming patches, and within the actual 1.1 patch notes, it was acknowledged by the CD Projekt Red team that they focused on various stability improvements and bug fixes with this latest update. The issue with this patch is that it's a giant rushed mess. I don't know what's going on inside of CD Projekt Red, but they just have to stop giving out dates and actually properly playtest this stuff and give it time. What I mean by that is one of the listed fixes is that they solved an issue where Takamura wouldn't call in down on the street a quest. The problem with this fix is that it's broken in a new game-breaking way. What happens now is when Takamura calls, he just sits there and his dialogue doesn't start. Reloading doesn't seem to work. Multiple players have reported this bug with no way to progress, and a few days later it still has not been fixed. Hopefully by the time this video goes live it's resolved, but this is what I mean about them needing to take their time. And actually, as of recording this video, CD Projekt Red has acknowledged that they are working on a hotfix for this issue, and they have revealed a sort of workaround, but it's just amazing that we've reached this point in which players are going to have to go through these obstacles to get the game working. Additionally, this is not the lone example of a fix being broken. The Delamain questline was noted as being resolved, but again, multiple players report it still being broken with no phone calls happening when in the area of the quests. A new supposed bug that has emerged for players is the inability to re-roll loot. So for example, players would come upon a legendary item with 1 mod slot. They would reload a save and try getting the max of 4 mod slots, and now that is no longer possible. Whatever is set is what you'll get every time. It's unclear if this is a bug, but I would assume it is. Either way, it's yet another problem in a long line of things that just have to be resolved. Expectations and hopes for quality of life improvements are going to have to wait. It's quite clear this is going to take time, and if there is one takeaway from this first large update here in January, the one coming in February might not be enough. We really may be waiting until the end of 2021 for this game to be in a decent state. Patch 1.1 simply didn't address much. Every bug I had in 1.06 remains, such as one significant one, Gig getting warmer, that is still completely bugged out. This is not even mentioning the dozens of perks and items that are broken in the game. Players have been testing and have found over 40 perks either completely broken or not working properly. Over 20 pieces of cyberware, consumables, and mods are either broken or not working properly. There is a crowd of people or players that every time we have a discussion about how the game is in a buggy or broken state, they said that the game is running perfectly fine for them, but the issue is that there are underlying issues, some that aren't visual, that are really breaking this experience and have to be addressed, such as many perks and cosmetic and weapon mods that are not working properly. These problems are not new, these have been going on since launch dates, just that many in the community have been unaware, but fortunately players are testing and realizing just how buggy and broken this game currently is. CD Projekt Red has a lot of work to do, and this also doesn't even include the overhauls necessary for things like vehicles, police, and NPCs. I have skepticism with how much CDPR will improve this game, but honestly, this is why, boys and girls, releasing games that are not ready is not a very good decision. I would say maybe they'll learn their lesson, or maybe other companies will, but in reality, nobody learns, and we gamers get to wait for the next AAA disaster. Anyway, a lot going on in this video game industry, some good, some bad, definitely anticipating the mysterious KOTOR project. Maybe a developer like Spiders is behind it? Either way, I could spend an hour taking guesses, but let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below on the subjects that we discussed today. But thank you for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy this video or if you found any informative value, and make sure to follow my other social media accounts for updates on new videos. Links are always down in the description below. I'm most active on Twitter, giving opinions on news that I do not always get into video form, so do make sure to follow me over there. Also check out my Discord for all sorts of discussion on games, and again, thank you for joining. Consider subscribing for more videos like this, and I'll see you later.